moment A Mother went live, A&D whispered that A rap icon was robbed blind by his own mentor, everything changed. Because this isn't just a story about Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane anymore. This is about betrayal, money, power, and what happens when silence finally breaks. It started with a sentence that hit like a gunshot. $25 million. Not rumors, not whispers, not blog speculation. Straight from his own mother's mouth. Live unfiltered. No PR filter, no damage control. Just raw accusation hanging in the air like smoke nobody wanted to inhale, but everybody did. And suddenly, the internet froze. Because while Pooh Shiesty was locked in a federal cell, doing time, watching the world move without him, his name, his music, his brand, still printing money. Streams didn't stop. Fans didn't stop. The machine didn't stop. But according to what's being said, the money stopped reaching him. And that's where this story turns dark. Go back to Memphis. 2019, a young Lantrell Williams Jr., before the chains, before the fame, drops Hell Night. No label, no cosign, just raw, icy energy that didn't ask for attention, it demanded it. And the streets responded instantly, not slowly, not politely, fast. Then comes 2020, the call. Not just any call. Gucci Mane, a man whose name isn't just attached to music, but to careers, to movements, to entire waves of artists who became legends under his shadow. When he calls, you don't hesitate. You don't second guess. You answer. And Pooh Shiesty answered. He signed to 1017 Records. And in that moment, it looked like destiny. Because everything exploded right after that. Back in Blood drops with Lil Durk. And suddenly Pooh isn't just hot, he's unavoidable. The streets are playing him. The charts are reflecting him. The culture is talking about him. Shiesty season debuts top 5. The industry starts circling. Money starts flowing. Fame starts climbing. And on the surface, it looks perfect. But here's the question nobody asked back then. Who really owned what? Because while the spotlight was blinding, the paperwork was quiet. Then, everything collapses. July 2021. Federal charges. Not a rumor. Not an accusation floating online. Real charges. Real consequences. A situation in Florida tied to a shooting. A gambling dispute that spiraled out of control. And even though Pooh maintained he didn't pull the trigger, it didn't matter. Guilty plea. 5 years and 3 months. And just like that, the hottest rising star in the game disappears behind bars. Momentum gone. Buzz gone. Opportunities paused. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because while he was gone, his music wasn't. Streams kept climbing. Songs kept circulating. His name stayed alive in playlists, in algorithms, in marketing campaigns. Money was still being generated. And according to what's now being said, a lot of it. But where did it go? Because what people close to the situation are hinting at is that while millions were being made off his catalog, Pooh Shiesty himself wasn't seeing it. Not a check, not a transfer, not even a sign that anything was waiting for him. And that's not just business, that's personal. Because in the streets, there's a code. And when someone feels like they've been cut out of what's theirs, especially while they couldn't defend themselves, that doesn't just sit quietly. That builds, that simmers, that turns into something dangerous. And then comes the number. $24 million, $25 million. The exact figure might shift depending on who's talking, but the accusation stays the same. That money was made, and Pooh didn't get his share. Think about that. You're locked up. No control. No voice. Watching from inside while your name is still making waves outside. And the people you trusted to handle your business, allegedly cashing in. And the worst part? You can't do anything about it. Until you come home. October 2025. Release. And suddenly, everything changes again. Because now he's back in the world, back in the game, back in a position where he can ask questions that were building for years, and what he allegedly found wasn't peace. It was a problem, because now there's new interest, new deals on the table, new opportunities like whispers about Yo Gotti and CMG wanting him. But there's one thing standing in the way, the old contract, the one he signed when everything felt like brotherhood, the one that now feels like a cage. And allegedly, that cage wasn't being opened easily. Now tension isn't just quiet anymore. It's loud, it's layered, it's dangerous. Because this isn't just artist versus label. This is history, rivalries, power dynamics that go deeper than contracts. And then comes the moment, January 10th, 2026. Dallas, Texas. What was supposed to be a routine meeting turns into something nobody expected. And this is where everything crosses the line. Because according to federal documents, not rumors, not speculation, this meeting wasn't just business. It was a setup, a studio session that turned into something far more serious. And in that room, everything that had been building for years finally exploded. Contracts weren't just discussed, they were demanded. And when words didn't work, things escalated. Fast. Too fast to undo. Too fast to control. And from that moment on, this wasn't a music industry dispute anymore. It became a federal case. A case with words like kidnapping, armed robbery, and conspiracy attached to it. A case that could change lives forever. And suddenly, that $25 million accusation? It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was motive. Because what happened inside that Dallas studio wasn't just a reaction. It was an eruption, an explosion of everything that had been building silently for years. According to federal documents, this wasn't random. This wasn't chaos. This was coordinated, planned, executed with precision that makes it even more chilling when you really sit with it. They say Pooh Shiesty didn't walk in alone. 8 people deep, not friends hanging out, not casual company, co-conspirators, people who allegedly traveled for this exact moment, and among them, his own father. Let that sink in, because now this isn't just business anymore. This isn't just street energy. This is family stepping into a situation that could either fix everything or destroy everything. And inside that studio, everything still looked normal at first. People watching a basketball game, conversations happening, no tension in the air that anyone could visibly point to, no alarms, no panic, just another day in the music industry, until it wasn't. Because at some point, Pooh allegedly asked Gucci Mane for a private conversation. And Gucci agreed. Why wouldn't he? This was his artist, his investment, someone he had built with. But what happened next is where the narrative fractures into something almost cinematic. Because the moment that door closed, everything changed. No more casual talk. No more industry politeness. A contract was pulled out. Termination papers slid across like a final demand. Sign it, right now. And when Gucci didn't immediately comply, that's when things allegedly escalated to a level nobody in that room could ignore. Because according to the affidavit, a weapon came out. Not just flashed, pointed, directly. And in that moment, this wasn't a negotiation anymore. It was pressure, real pressure. The kind that doesn't leave room for let's discuss this later. And eventually, Gucci signed, on camera, with Big 30 allegedly recording everything like it was evidence, or maybe insurance, or maybe something else entirely. But while that was happening in one room, another scene was unfolding just feet away. Because in the control room, the rest of the group allegedly made their move. Weapons out, demands flying, jewelry, cash, luxury items, everything of value suddenly becoming part of the situation. And one of the victims allegedly choked to the point of nearly losing consciousness. Doors blocked, exits controlled, no easy way out. This wasn't just intimidation anymore. This was a full takeover. And here's the detail that makes everything feel almost unreal. After it was done, some of them allegedly went straight to social media, posting, showing off items, like what just happened wasn't about to trigger a federal storm, like nobody was watching, but somebody always is. And in this case, it was the feds. Because what people didn't fully process in the moment is that Pooh Shiesty wasn't moving freely. He was still under supervision, an ankle monitor, tracking every movement, every location, every second. And according to investigators, that data placed him right there, at that exact location, at that exact time. No guessing, no confusion, just digital proof mapping out the entire timeline. And it didn't take long for everything to collapse. Because by April 2026, the case wasn't just forming, it was announced publicly. 9 individuals charged, 8 already in custody, 1 still out there. And the language coming from federal authorities? Not soft, not cautious, direct. They called him the ringleader, and that word carries weight. Because in federal court, ringleader doesn't just describe involvement. It amplifies consequences. It pushes sentences higher, makes everything heavier. And suddenly, the same artist who had just come home was now staring at something far worse than before. Life. Not months, not years. Life. But here's where things get complicated. Because the defense, they're not backing down. Attorneys are already pointing at inconsistencies, questioning evidence, suggesting that what's being presented might not tell the full story. And even more interesting, There were acknowledgments that some key elements, like direct proof of who held what weapon, weren't as clear-cut as the headlines made them seem. No clean surveillance angle showing everything. No recovered weapon tying everything neatly together. And that opens the door, not wide, but enough. Enough for doubt to exist. Enough for arguments to be made. Because in court, doubt is everything. But outside of court, perception is louder. And perception right now is brutal. Because of the timing, because of the ankle monitor, because of the alleged social media posts, because of the optics that are almost impossible to explain away. And while all of this is unfolding, there's another voice in the background that refuses to stay quiet. His mother, Gladis Baines. She didn't step up to a podium. She didn't issue a formal statement. She went live, in a car, music playing, energy calm, almost too calm. And instead of explaining, she let the silence speak. A middle finger appears on camera. No apology, no fear, just defiance. And then the posts start coming. Scriptures, messages, subtle lines that don't directly say everything, but somehow say enough. Enough for the internet to connect the dots. Enough for people to believe that in her eyes, her son wasn't just wrong. He was wronged. That this wasn't just a crime. It was a reaction to something deeper, something financial, something personal. And suddenly, the narrative splits. On one side, people saying nothing justifies what allegedly happened. That business disputes belong in courtrooms, not behind locked studio doors with weapons involved. On the other, people asking uncomfortable questions about contracts, about ownership, about what happens when an artist goes to prison and loses control of their own career. And the industry, it's watching, quietly. Because this situation is bigger than just two names. It touches something deeper. A system that has been questioned for decades. Deals that look like opportunity until they don't. Artists who sign away control before they understand the consequences. And what happens when those artists are no longer in a position to protect themselves? Because if even a fraction of what's being claimed is true, then this isn't just about one incident in Dallas. This is about a structure, a machine that keeps running, whether the artist is free or not. And when that artist comes back, sometimes the numbers don't match the story they were told. But here's the reality that can't be ignored. No matter what happened before, no matter what money was made, no matter what was owed, what allegedly happened in that studio changed everything. Because once violence enters the picture, the conversation shifts from business to crime, from contracts to consequences. And now, as Pooh Shiesty sits in a holding facility, facing the possibility of never walking free again, his mother is still posting, still believing, still standing on the idea that her son was pushed into a corner he didn't create, and the rest of the world watching, debating, picking sides. But one thing is undeniable. This story isn't over, not even close, because the courtroom hasn't spoken yet. And until it does, everything you think you know might just be one side of a much bigger truth.